Yay, it says it's live, so I shall go with that. Okay, let's copy a link. Let's go to invite people. No, I don't want to invite people to the Hangout. I want to invite people to the stream. So I go to live events. I go to this. I shall mute it on my end. There we go. And go to this. And go to that. And get rid of that message. And let's post going live to talk about geeky stuff. Feel free to pop on by. There we go. Post. Yay. Okie dokie. Let's see. Yep, stream's still going, so I can minimize that. And the chat is on. So that is that. I have my phone now on mute, and I have muted the sound on this tab. So I don't think I'll know when people are trying to communicate with me. However, yeah, if you want to talk to me, put it in the chat and I'll see if I can catch it. But basically, I'm just here to talk about my play-by-post adventure. I've just finished recording a couple of videos, and I'm about to go and edit those. But my play-by-post is meant to be a daily game, and it has slowed down since. So since about February, March, when it started up, it was daily. Pretty much 24 hours on the dot, boom, update. And that led to a lot of late nights because I was updating first at 8, and then at 10, and then at midnight, because we shifted the times slightly over the course of a few weeks. But then I was staying up quite late. Now, a lot of people have been added since then, and so it's getting quite large. And at first, I didn't think that would be impacting it. A lot of people in the same place doesn't seem to impact it, but a lot of people in various locations in the game world does. And I want to measure this. So this is partly measuring how long it takes me to do the update, but also going through my process of writing the update. I thought that would be interesting to have a look at for me as well as anyone else. So with that, let's get into how I do my update. So I have a notepad file. In fact, I will quickly share my screen with you if I learn how. Cameraman, broadcast the large, what? Apparently that's not it. Screen share, there we go. My entire screen, application window. My entire screen, why not? Okay, so, recursion. Okay, so here we have my Facebook profile and my notepad file, which I always have just as a small thing. So here it is. It's the session update that I copy and paste into the Facebook page where the play-by-post takes place. Also, each section is copied and pasted into the wiki, which I normally have constantly open, but I don't at the moment. Let's close that, and close that, and close that, and close that. That's a work thing as well. Hey hon. Yes, I pronounce it Taehun. It could be Taihun, but yes, Taehun is how I've always pronounced it. That's what I'm doing. Calling it Taehun. Let's just have a quick look. Is there anything on the live chat? No. Good. So this is it. It's come straight onto the characters. These are all the player characters that we have in the game at the moment, apart from Elrohir the Cinderborn. One of my players has placed that erroneously, but I am allowing him to keep it there because it's somewhere to keep his character and it's not interfering with my game. But here we have Adric Fireforge, Dwarven Druid. He's no longer a Dwarven Druid. So we need to change that. He is now a Barbarian. So Adric Fireforge, this quiet but deadly barbaric dwarf from Korath, which is a dwarven city in the campaign. He was formerly description biography. Strong and wise, Adric spent years away from his home, getting close to nature. Having been isolated for so long, Adric often simply grunts or gestures to communicate now. He recently underwent a magical ritual that cost him his magical connection and his druid powers, but he since gained a rage so fierce as to crack mountains. He changed classes from druid to barbarian. Yes, the player joined the game. He liked the idea of Adric, but he enjoyed the idea of using his fists more than magic. And then he had the idea that he wanted an animal companion and he wanted to be more a Viking type and not using magic. And so I obliged. We had a situation come up in the game where he could switch from druid to barbarian. He took it. We also had a situation where he could find a small wolf pup. And as part of my druids, they have the ability to take a wild walk when in druid grows, which is a hyperbolic time chamber type effect. But it is by orders of magnitude. It increases by powers. So I think it's like 1 hour equals 1 day, and it's basically everything multiplies by 24 after that. So if you spend a couple of hours in there, it speeds up exponentially. So it's then the equivalent of 24 days if you spend 2 days in there. If you, so 2 hours in there. If you spend 3 hours in there, it's then 24 times that. So I think he spent just a few hours, and he was there for 1.5 years, and he managed to beef up, or possibly even just 6 months. But anyway, I worked out how long it would take for a wolf to grow to self-sufficient sort of post-teen age. And it's not that long. It's like 1 year, 1.5 years, something like that. And so I had him walk out. So as far as everyone else was concerned, an evening had gone by. But for Adric, he had spent a long time in nature, getting to know his wolf companions. So they were straight away, mechanically speaking, able to perform as character and animal companion, but also getting used to his new abilities and his rage ability as a barbarian. His rage, which would be partly fueled by the fact that as a general loner type, he'd felt some goodness from the connection that the Feyweave gave him as a druid. So losing that filled him with rage and made him a barbarian mechanically. We've got Cosma Thorngage, one of my favorite characters in the game at the moment. She's a feisty, flirty gnome. Darren Glaurung is always interestingly played by my mate Mark. He's a hermit, half-elf sorcerer. He's quite heavily involved with some of the NPCs. Erin Mayoma, played by my wife. She was a dragonborn. But we then later found out about the Yuan-Ti purebloods, I think, or abominations. Well, one of the two. The ones where they're not quite snake people. They are just people with stuff around their eyes and snaky traits. And it's basically Green Dragonborn in terms of abilities. So she's switched to that because her Green Dragonborn abilities haven't been used yet in game. And so it's not going to affect anything. A bit of retroactive continuity going on there. Eero, an Aasimar war cleric. He just appeared in a dungeon one day. Ezra is a tiefling rogue. Yes, I pronounce it tiefling, not tiefling, because it's a TIE fighter. It's a tie. You tie a knot. Tiefling. See? T-I-E. I know everyone calls it tiefling. I know that it might officially be termed tiefling. I also know that the pronunciation is different depending on who you speak to at Wizards of the Coast, and so there's no official guideline. You can call it what you like. Yes, that's overly inclusionary, but hey, I'm just going to quickly check the chat. Good. No one's in the chat. I'm now paranoid about people being in the chat and wanting to talk to me about stuff, but I am just going to ramble on. Yeah, just checking. Infinite recursion. Back. Okay, so Farl Wudenik is a half-elf hermit druid. I've got a lot of good ideas about Farl. He's in the far north of the game world, along with people like Gemscale and Hexfang, which I'll get to. But the play's not posted in a little while, and that's fine. In my play-by-post, you don't have to post all the time. You can just allow things to progress without your input, or if you're too busy, you don't have to drop in and post every day, and I'm not going to like punish you for it. But yeah, so there's a lot of characters. I'll just quickly go through them all. So fellow Silverdale, Gemscale is a dragon. I was handed a PDF. I considered it balanced, and so I'm allowing that as a homebrew race. So Gemscale and Hexfang are dragons. Hiln is a Goliath barbarian. He's also in the north. So we've got Farl Wudenik, Gemscale, Hexfang, Hiln, Lorius Wormhaven, plays with knives, just called Knives to his friend. They are in the north, and everyone else is in the south. Okay, so you've got Kane, who's a fighter monk multi-class with very Eastern influences. Lortian Galanadel. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, but I pronounce it Lortian. I like that name. Lorwyn. Lorwyn's cool. She's as her altered form as a druid, she has chosen a cat, and she transforms into a cat and just like sneaks around because no one's suspecting a cat. It's fantastic. I love it. Nyx Whimsy. She's a noble gnome wizard, and Nyx is awesome. She uses her nobleness to great effect. A lot of the time, I try to involve NPCs from all walks of life, including a bit of nobility, a bit of the kind of a bottom end of society, so drunkards lying in the street sort of thing. So there's always a variety of people to interact with. However, as it's transpired, there's a lot of noble people that people have latched onto in the South. And so Nyx has been very good at utilizing her status there, which I've enjoyed because it's not just using class and race abilities, it's the background as well, using that in the game, which is also what Darren does, which is cool. Uriana Fletcher, I have some good things to say about Uriana. She's not been in the game long. A few of these characters are fairly new, but Uriana Fletcher, the backstory and everything just dovetails so nicely with what's going on in the game. It's fantastic. Plays with knives. I've never had a mystic, so I am going to have fun with that. Taliesin Erebor, the half-elf paladin. So Taliesin and Theodore Shawls, the human paladin, they're both in the south, they're both together. These guys have got a little bromance thing going on, which is quite nice to sort of play up. Theodore recently came across some magical armor, and Theodore and Taliesin had a nice little duel to see who had who got the armor, because they found it on a dead king. Oh, I'm getting beeps. Who's doing what to whom and why? Okay, fair enough. Non-player characters, loads. Some of them are former player characters. So our Bardino, Aaron Bardino, he it was played by a player who unfortunately had to leave. He may be coming back, so play characters that the players leave the game or they want to switch characters, they become NPCs. They are still in the world, and I'm likely to use them quite a bit. So I've got Abadino. Angor is the chieftain of Hagishk, the orc city that I've got in the north. With the orcs, I like to pronounce things as if I've got a pronounced lower jaw. So I try to find words and sounds that, rather than adhering to a language structure or something, I am trying to think of words that will be interesting, but also sound alien, but also would be more suitable for people with a pronounced underbite, as orcs are generally portrayed as having. So Hagishk, I see as one of these sounds. Arth, not very well fleshed out is Arth. I want to do more with him. Basically, if they don't have a picture, they're not very well fleshed out in my mind. Arth is a fairly simple, burly fisherman who's helped out people in the far south. Spoilers, Begazul, which the other characters can't see. As you can see, it's sort of grayed out, and it's got this DM symbol here. Begazul is a pit fiend prince of hell. He's a big bad. So he's someone who is going around trying to destroy magical artifacts, and that's important. So that there's more people around here. Dargintard is another big bad who works for Gorbane. There's another big bad. So the dragons are a big thing in this, and the demons are a big thing in this, but for different reasons. I've created this campaign so that you've got sufficient low scale and high scale villains to occupy yourself with, and that's the main thing here. I'll keep popping up on the thing. Okay. So that's yeah, my Facebook. My face. Why does my face have to be up there? Okay, so this is the adventure log. This is where I post all the individual sections for each person, so that in the update, they can go to where their name is tagged, and if they don't want to be confused about what they're reading, they can just click on the link above their name, and that will take them to the section that deals just with them. You may notice that in a couple of the sections, I don't have the total XP written. That's because it's in an Excel sheet, which my friend Mark thankfully put together. So that's the XP of the South. But there's a gap. So from where this Excel spreadsheet ends, there's a few sessions and then my calculations here. So I basically need to go back and recalculate what the total XP is for people to help them out. And in the north, I have elsewhere, not in the right folder, but on my desktop or in one of the folders on my desktop, I have a little notepad file that tracks the total XP of the north to a point. And I haven't written down what that point is. And so I need to go back and basically recalculate the whole thing. So it's not a good position. Let's go back to looking at me. Stop. Hey, it's me. It's me, Mario. Yeah, that is the wiki that I've got. So I've got the adventure log, I've got the characters, and I've also got a wiki, which I'm now looking at and you can't see. Yeah, the wiki's got some important things. There's loads of stuff that I need to update the wiki with. But life, you know, it happens. Right, let's start. So in the north is where I've got the topmost update. And in fact, it pretty much goes in north-south order. The one exception is at the bottom two, which I'll probably swap around just now, actually, is I've got some people in a place called Sommergleam, which is a subset of Summergleam. So Summergleam is what the elves call the whole area. But the area doesn't have like a unified name that everyone calls it by. So I've got the continent called Enon. They're in the southwest nub of Enon, which is still a large area, but it's fairly small. It's like Wales or something. And southwest Enon is not what everyone calls it. The dwarves call it Korath. Now, Korath describes the area that the city of Korath belongs in, but also they've got all their military bases and small towns and stuff. So it's all collectively Korath. So they call the whole area Korath. If they need to, they don't generally refer to the whole area. They like to be very specific about things and try not to generalize, is what I've decided for the dwarves. The elves call it Summergleam, and they seem to think that they own it. They've just got a couple of people that live there. They've got humans, have got a few of their cities and villages dotting around the landscape because they pop up like roaches, and the dwarves have a city there. And as far as the elves are concerned, that's all the dwarves have. The dwarves do have military complexes elsewhere, but the elves don't know about it because the elves only care about elf things. Lots of internal fighting and politics. It's very sort of Game of Thronesy. Everyone's trying to take over each other's thing and posturing and all that kind of stuff with the elves. So they don't actually care much about international politics. They don't care about what's happening with everyone else. But the dwarves do care about what's happening with everyone else, but not to a malicious degree. At least not these dwarves. So at the very, very south, Summergleam is basically the humans heard the elves wanted to call the area Summergleam and wanted to control the whole area. The humans thought, we want to control the whole area. We'll call our city Summergleam City. And just over time, it's corrupted to Summergleam, partly to differentiate it from the elven idea of what Summergleam is. So Summergleam, to also make it sound a bit more kind of Old English as well, is a town. And then south of that is the villages of Berceau. Berceau has Berceau on the hill, Berceau by the hill, and Berceau on the sea. Berceau on the sea is where the southernmost action is taking place, and they're not at the very bottom, but I shall deal with that another time. So, Death Lake in the north. So let's have a look. What's happening in Death Lake? Well, what's happening in Death Lake at the moment is we have the 5 player characters, Gemscale, Hexfang, Hiln, Knives, and Lorias there. They are traveling from a giant's station to an orc city via Death Lake. So they basically go all the way down to Death Lake, and then they go along to a mountain range, and there's the orc city. The Orc City is where Farlwoodnik is as well, so they can potentially hook up with that player if he's still there. By the time they get there, he could leave. So they have gone south for a few days and found Death Lake. Now, Death Lake I have got as a portal to the underworld. This is where this lake periodically floods and then recedes and leaves behind all these dead things that just rot and poison the ground beneath them and just make the air really toxic and gaggy. People throw up just by being near it. Because there's lots of rotting carcasses like whales and dolphins and fish and squirrels and rabbits and all sorts of things that just aren't in the area. Okay, rabbits will be in the area, but just other things that just aren't native. And when it recedes from its flood, it is like a small pool, basically. You could fit maybe a dozen people in there if they weren't shy of being close. It's like a large hot tub size, right? With a few like rock formations coming over it to make it seem like a rather imposing like mouth of a starfish or something. And so you go down there along the tunnels and you find yourself on the other side of the world eventually in the lands of the dead. That's where it leads to, and that's why dead things are in there. It is Death Lake. It's the lake that leads to the land of the dead. So it's received this reputation of being a portal. And it technically is. It's a physical connection between the two. So people are seeing, well, it comes one way, must go another. So there's a guy there trying to retrieve his daughter. Yeah, daughter. There we go. So his daughter, Ariadne, was killed by a big black dragon, Dargintad. The reason I had her killed by Dargintad was because it ties in with Gemscale's backstory. He's hunting Dargintad. Hexfang, I've also connected his story to Dargintad, but it's not clear yet. That's something that's going to be clarified. Hexfang's backstory is that an evil human queen burned down this fey glade that he was living in, where he'd found peace and found, she had found peace in a partner. And started a family, and that family was taken away by this fire that tore down her home as well. Now, that queen is going to secretly be Dargintad polymorphed. That will be made clear at some point, and so I'm trying to get some animosity with Dargintad proper, so that when it's revealed that the queen was really Dargintad, it's easier to transfer the hatred, instead of going, oh, well, I had hatred for a human form in my head, and now it's really a dragon form. It can lose a bit of the hatred because it can feel like a different person. So I'm basically trying to amplify that so everyone's got a clear, focused goal. Also, Hexfang was charged by Gorbane, this massive green dragon godfather type figure, to go and perform a duty. Basically, move a beholder south so that he's out the way. More dragons can move in, but also the beholder goes south and interferes with a few kingdoms that are causing trouble for Dargintad down south. For Gorbane down south. So he's doing these Machiavellian maneuvers, trying to get people to do things that affect other things and stuff like that. But that mission wasn't done as quickly as was intended, and Gorbane could see that the dragon was going elsewhere. Didn't know his intentions, so he's like, all right, he was in the right area, now he's going elsewhere. I'm going to consider him done, failure. Now, I knew as a GM that he hadn't abandoned his mission. The player's a he. That's why I'm saying he. So Hexfang, she hadn't abandoned her mission. But I needed some sort of conflict there. I wanted it to be made clear that the big bad Gorbane was an arse. And so I had them be this really prissy, like, oh, well, you're not doing my job, well, I'll kill you, sort of thing. Being really flippant about it and really wanted to be exacting, so that any future minion of Gorbane that they meet, they understand that this minion has a certain amount of pressure on them, and that the moment they are commanded by Gorbane, needs to be done. So they're under considerable pressure and stuff. This means that they don't only have to combat this person, but they can either try and communicate with them and say, look, we can protect you from Gorbane. We know that he's an arse and that he's probably controlling you in some way. He's got something over you, or that you don't like just being drawn out of retirement at the drop of a hat. Or they can just delay them and Gorbane can take care of the rest. It gives them options. So I'm trying to introduce these concepts. It was a bit rocky to begin with, but I think we're cool with it now. So Gorbane tells Dargintad, do all this stuff, be my avenging angel of darkness. So the two dragons have a connection, but they don't realize it yet. Hiln, the half-giant, the Goliath, and Knives, the mystic tabaxi, they don't have anything yet. And I'm trying to find a way to get them involved more directly. They've been hired by a giant to escort Gemscale and Hexfang out of the area, away from Gorbane's reach, and try and get them south of the crown of the world, a mountain range that separates the north and south hemispheres. And Laureus is a wizard who traveled north to try and find out more about the lands of the dead, because he's lost his wife and he wants to find her again and bring her back. So what do they do on the way? Death Lake, placed it there so it's got something to involve Laureus, because at the moment he's just gone, oh, where's all these dead things? Where are all these dead things? Things to do with the land of the dead, dragons, and now it's got dragged up with the dragon storyline. So now everyone can get involved a little bit with the death storyline. The intention is that it's going to be made clear that going through this Death Lake thing will require more resources than the party actually has at the moment. This is something to revisit later, and it also means that if Laureus wants to remain in the north along with Farlwoodnik when they finally meet up, then they can. They can splinter off, stay in the north, and investigate this Death Lake business. Whereas the dragons can go down south and join the rebellion dragons if they want to, or they can remain north and try and fight off the dragons from the north, whatever. I'm trying to keep things as open and available as possible, but I've still got ideas for where the routes can go down. So what we've got so far is they've dragged this guy who's lost his daughter away from Death Lake because he was diving in to try and get his daughter back, and he's really upset. And they've all basically said, look, you know, what's going on? We don't know what's going on. There's a couple of characters that are present, like Zadkiel and Erbardino, who were former player characters and are now NPCs because the players have dropped out. So they are still present. So we've got Gemscale, Hexfang, Hiln, Knives, Laureus, Zadkiel, and R, all working towards the goals of the party. And we've now got this gentleman whose daughter Ariadne was taken by Dargintad, and the guy's name is like your Yerion, something like that. I've forgotten his name because I've only just introduced him. This is bad. So I will look through to try and find where his name is. And I'm likely not going to refer to it, but I'd like to know, and we should add him to the wiki. Right. Ah, yes, there's been more updates and things since. Looking through. I seem to recall someone referred to the guy's name. Sure, it began with Y. Yoran, right. Let's have a look at the adventure log and have a look at Death Lake Part 2, because that will likely be where I've put the name. And let's just confirm that Yoran is the name that I've given to the guys. Let's go Control F. Yoran. No, there's nothing there. Oh. But Death Lake was on the 10th of July. So let's have a look at the text-based 5th edition adventures and see what's there. So if we go to search, search this group. Should I search this group? Let's just look for the last Tehun campaign one. Oh, and if anyone is watching this, Jessica Rivera's link, the PMIN experiments, do it. It doesn't take a lot of time, and it's really good. Where's my last update? Oh yes, 12th of July, because I'd completed the Death Lake write-up a couple of days beforehand. So let's have a look at this update and see if Yoran is written there at all as a response 21. So let's see, who are you saving? Who have I responded to and reveal that name? I haven't. So have they gone to him yet? Having approached the man, begin gagging on the fumes. So where has the name Yoran come from? That's the crying man. Oh, my name is Yoran. Why didn't it find it? I searched on Death Lake Part 2 and not Death Lake Part 3. That's why I was silly. Silly Billy. Silly Billy. Why am I talking like that? Okay, let's keep that up. So, my name is Yoran. My daughter Ariadne was killed mere days ago by a great black beast, a dragon named Dargentard. He said he was clearing the way for someone, so laying the groundwork there, and that he's clearing the way for Gorbane. So, what are the responses that we've had? Because essentially this ends with him expositioning, I seek to bring her back from the lands that Dargentard sent her to. I seek the lands of the dead. Tales of this pool being a portal between worlds. Sorry, tales tell of this portal being a portal between worlds. I will find her or die trying. To which we have, so let's pull up my notepad file, and what I will do is I will delete the update that I wrote last. So in fact, because I'm not going to be incredibly interesting to watch at the moment, I will flip the camera again and you can see what I'm doing. My entire screen, share. Recursion! Okay, so what I'm doing is on the notepad file, I am taking all of this and delete. I have the names of everyone there. I have their XP here. And Control S to save as is. Death Lake Part 4. I'll change the title there, and that's what I shall call it when I eventually put it in the adventure log. So what do we have? We have Hexfang. Hexfang will hand the eggs to Gemscale. Yes, the dragons found some dragon eggs that were going to be used in a kobold ritual to grant the Lord of the Kobolds in the area wings and dragon powers. But of course, the priest also wanted to have these wings and dragon powers because he was the go-to person that kept talking to Gorbane, the big massive dragon, and was being promised these powers and heard like where to find the dragon eggs and things. So there's some internal conflict there that the players never really got much of a chance to take advantage of yet, but I'm sure they're likely to come back to this area and see the changed landscape. But of course the dragon eggs are gone, and so the leverage that Tay the priest had is gone. So they have upset the balance there, but they also have dragon eggs. So Hexfang will hand the eggs to Gemscale. She points to herself, then to the lake. Poison dragon, poison lake. If anyone stands a chance of reaching the bottom of this, both figuratively and literally, it's going to be me. It's either a barren cesspool or a portal to the grave. Either way, give us 15 minutes. She sticks her hand out to Yoran. Second time's the charm. So she's sticking her hand out to Yoran. So is she offering to take Yoran to the land of the dead? A 15-minute swim. You know, I'm because they want to swim for 15 minutes and find something, and I don't want this to be a dead end that the party completely abandons in the future, just going, oh, Death Lake, it leads nowhere. You know, we swam underwater for 15 minutes, went nowhere. So that's going to be a problem if I just have nothing there. So I need some sort of barrier or hope. So if I go down there, because if I put a barrier there, and so the lake goes nowhere, that would present a problem, because then how does the dead stuff arrive? But it would leave that mystery in the minds of the party, like, well, how does it get here? This warrants further investigation. And why do these rumors persist? But I think it presents too much of a problem, and it gives me something else to work out later. So instead, we will have it go infinitely on until it reaches the lands of the dead on the other side of the world. However, how about a cavern that they can reach where this underwater flue can sort of open up? They've got an air pocket to breathe in, but also introduces some dead elements and things. So perhaps like a Karen type character, a skeleton guardian who can answer some questions and is there not as a hostile antagonist, but just as someone to introduce them to the lands of the dead. Maybe someone who enjoys the solitude, and so from the lands of the dead has swum through, arrived here, and just slowly rotted over time, and is now just sitting here on a park bench, just going, "Yep, lands of the dead that way. It's miles and miles and miles. You will be swimming for days, if not weeks. So not worth it." This would give them everything that they need, in fact. It also introduces the idea that in the lands of the dead, you've still got sentience there. So the land of the dead, I'm still firming up in my mind, but essentially, I've got it as just another world. It's the dark side of the planet, sort of. It still gets sun. It's still a rotational sphere, but anyway, I'll get into that another day. So we've got Hiln. Becoming a little uneasy when the dead are mentioned. It's best to leave the dead resting. He nervously looks over to the lake before adding, "It's a very sad story, but bringing people back from the dead never had a good ending." He seems to remember an old story and shivers a bit. I like that. That's cool. Gemscale accepts the eggs and nods to Hexfang. "Thank you for your actions. If there is a portal, be careful. Maybe we should tie off with a rope or something?" Turning back to Yoren, Gemscale's face turns even more serious. Gemscale's a very young gold dragon, so I can expect some optimism in his voice. "Dargentad killed my parents, and so I know your pain. I have been searching for him and plan to kill him or die trying. Where did you last see him? For I will try my best to get revenge for the both of us." Tries to persuade. Gemscale makes a fist and smashes it into his other hand. He begins pacing around a bit, clearly distraught by the news of his nemesis. Okay, so what do I need to address? I need to address Hexfang diving into lake. We've got Hiln remembers horror story. Shivers. That was a good character moment. And we've got Gemscale. Investigate. Dargentad. Rumors. With Yoren. And I should, on here, quickly create a Yoren character. So that I've got him. There's Tate, the priest. Tate is actually a name taken from my son. So my son, up until fairly recently, would say Coco and Tate fairly frequently. Coco and Tate were names for everything. If something was asked of him, the answer would be Coco or Tate. If he was asked to name something, either give something a name or guess what the name of something is, it would be Coco or Tate. And so I took the name Tate. It sounded childish. It was something that my son said. And I thought, yeah, that could be a kobold priest. Tate. Yes, character name. So this is Yoren. I need to give him a last name. So Yoren, he's in the north. He's human, but he's in the north. They're going to be more sort of like Highlander style. So small enclaves. Basically, the north is run by the monsters of the world. So you've got orc cities, giant cities, beholder dens, kobold cities. The humans live in very small villages on mountainsides, keeping their fires low. They do not survive here. This is the land of giants and dragons. So he would likely have some sort of feral sounding name, a name to make him sound of the land. So like Yoren Bear something. I don't know. In fact, you know what? Let's look up Inuit family names. Why not? Let's see. Last names for American Indians, Alaskan natives. Smith, Johnson, Begay, Yazzie, Locklear, Jones, Williams. Wow. This is different than I thought it would be. These are very, very European sounding names. Is this still the same thing? Surnames by race? Oh, I suppose if that's the common term for it, they're not a different race, you know. They're still humans. Spears, Parrish, so Morales, Parker, Deese, Thornton, Miguel, Garrison. See, here we go. A combination of consonants and vowels that you do not normally see in the English language. That's the sort of thing that I'm looking for. A sound that's different. Yellow horse, I think, is a bit on the nose. Something like yellow horse or like bear paw or something like that would, I think, give the wrong message. It would kind of suggest that, it's got this kind of tribal attitude that some people might read as tribal in a derogatory sense. Whereas I've quite clearly said that these are small tribes of people, tribes in the very neutral sense of the term, and yet still there's the danger there. So let's see what we can do. Let's not spend too long on here though. White horse, yellow horse. That's a bit strange. Santos, Washburn. This isn't telling me what is common among Inuits, just Inuits, though. Let's see. Well, looks like I'm not going to get much help from there, so let's just make one up. Yoran. What sounds nice? Yoran. I need a tip of the gums sound, like a l or a n. Yoran Landau. Yoranam. No, not Nam. Yoranam. Yoran. You could draw the tongue back a bit and go for a T. Yoran Tamsin. Tamsin is the first name, isn't it? Yoran. You're in trouble. Okay. Let's leave the last name for the time being. Spending too much time on it. Yoran. Bereaved father of Ariadne. Description: his daughter to Dargintad the Black Dragon. And with Dargintad, we can delete that and put character link. Dargintad the Black Dragon. So then when I go to create, it will then, there we go. And we've got a link to Dargintad, evil ancient black dragon. That's all I've got written down. I've got things that he's done. I need to put in like the Queen stuff in the DM only bit, but that's what we've got so far. So let's have a look. Yeah, nothing in the chat. Good. I think that's probably going to be the last time I check the chat because this is too involving. So that's what we've got so far. Let's have a look further down to see what else we've got. Here we go. Knives. Knives will turn his focus inwards in meditation before saying aloud, "If she's truly gone to the dead, do we have the right to retrieve her? God may have claimed her. She may be happy. The only thing we could really offer is to help this poor soul in seeking rightful vengeance on the evil that was responsible, rather than let him throw his life away. Sorry. Okay, so that's Knife suggesting that basically he and Hiln, as partners escorting these dragons, get involved with the dragon's beef. That's cool. So Knives suggests hunting Dargintad. And I'm sure we've got a Lorius involved. Ah, yeah, here we go. Portal to the land of the usually impassable Lorius's eyes grow wide for just a second. Then he scours the distance as well as the depths of the lake as, ignoring the miasma coming from it, he moves closer. Rolls a constitution check. I'd like to make an arcana or religion check for whatever seems appropriate to recall any lore/insight regarding this lake as a portal to another realm, legend, folklore, etc., that I would have written down in my journal during my travels here. That would be a 20, 17 plus 3 for either arcana or religion, because he's not proficient in either one. That's fine. I copied and pasted what they were told about Death Lake previously, with a bit of a clarification here. Perhaps the lake does lead to the lands of the dead, and should one be able to swim through, they might be able to emerge there. Just to clear up, that's the intention, basically. And that they were content with that, because the way that this is, it's going to be difficult sometimes for some people to remember like a small detail from a previous post if it's not set up as in a separate wiki page, which this hasn't yet. So I'm fine just copy and pasting that, because they've likely forgotten. Oh, what am I doing? There we go. To which he responded, I don't know what diving in will do to me, probably death at this point. I will ask around, the grieving man included, for details and what he wanted to achieve with his dive. If there is a safe way to get to the other side, I would venture forth, but I need to know more before doing anything rash. So, Lorius inquires as to what Yoren hoped would happen with the dive. How to get to the lands of the dead. George Romero. Oh God, no, he's actually dead now, isn't he? Jeez. But yeah, land of the dead, lands of the dead, land of the dead. Yeah, there we go. I thought it was all right. Halfway decent click. So that's what we've got from our 5 current and present protagonists. That's what we've got from them. What do I want to have happen from here on? Because I could just then write what they've said and done, but then there's no progress. There's nothing for them to build from. So we start off with what they've done and then the aftermath, the fallout from that. So what do we have? We have Loris is inquiring about things. So information first might be good. Hexfang gives a little bit of a speech. So let's copy and paste that. Hexfang hands the eggs to Gemscale. She points to herself, then to the lake. Interesting. Poison dragon. Self. Poison dragon. Into the lake. Poison lake. If anyone stands a chance of reaching the bottom of this, both figuratively and literally, it's going to be me. It's either a barren cesspool or a portal to the grave. What is cest? Is that a French thing? Yeah, c'est la vie. But yes, cess is, I'm sure, the non-auto-corrected version. Yes. Ah, cess. It's tax or levy. How do you put cesses in cesspool? Is it cesspool? No, it's C-E-S-S. It's just all together. Okay. Oh, shut my mouth. It's either a barren cesspool or a portal to the grave. Either way, give us 15 minutes. See how that you're on. Let's Fang. Either way goes 15 minutes. Let's have this broken up a bit because people are all supposed to be acting together. Okay, so that's that. Save that. Hiln remembers a horror story. Let's copy and paste that. Save ourselves a little bit of time by adapting what's already been written. In fact, let's put that first because it's purely a reaction shot. Hiln becomes a little uneasy when the dead are mentioned. Glorious. Mortified. Join them together because they're both reacting strongly. It's best to leave the dead resting. Hiln intones. Nervously looking over to the lake before adding, it's a very sad story, but bringing people back from the dead never had a good ending. Seems to remember an old story and shivers a bit. And let's go to... Let's see. What's in here? I don't know what diving in will do to me. Probably death at this point. I will ask around, the grieving man included, for details and what he wanted to achieve with his dive. Okay, so M Scale and Lorius both begin speaking at the same time. Now, why am I doing that? I'm saying that they're speaking at the same time because Gemscale, as I mentioned, young and impulsive, so I'm adding bits to try and portray certain character traits. Hexfang has portrayed herself as very much the loner and trying to take charge, so that's something that I'm trying to bring out as well. So she has taken charge and spoken first to the guy. Like Hiln sort of said something, but that's not something that's requiring a response, whereas Hexfang straight away going, right, I'm addressing you directly, not just saying a broad thing, but including you in it. And she's also handing the eggs to Gemscale, who, if I remember rightly, basically says, yeah, take the eggs. Yeah, accepts the eggs and nods to Hexfang. So Gemscale, who accepts them and nods. She, referring to Hexfang, points to herself. Poison dragon. And to the lake. Poison lake. I'm doing a very masculine voice for Hexfang. I should not be. Hexfang gets started as a man and then later on switched to female, but of course nothing had come up regarding to the gender, so it wasn't important, that change. There was a thing about switching from a winged dragon to a wingless dragon, but the wings had already been referred to. They were also mechanically interacted with in that the dragon's wings were bound to stop her from flying. And so I didn't want to have to retcon things at that point regarding wings. But gender is fine. Switch away. It's not something that comes up terribly often. So either way, give us 15 minutes. No, we're not there yet. Gemscale and Lorius both begin speaking at the same time. And why Lorius? Because Lorius is anxious and wanting to speak at the same time. So it sort of gives you those character things. Hiln also the sort of stoic giant type. So again, you're kind of getting these vibes from people with the way they're characterized, which is why I'm putting them in certain orders and rearranging things. That's basically my job. Take what's there and rearrange it so that it just seems to accentuate what the players are after. I am combining the disparate story threads that the players are coming up with and combining it into one coherent narrative. So Jimscale and Laureus both begin speaking at the same time. Eventually managing to find a rhythm that allows them to ask the questions without talking over each other. So then I don't need to go into the specifics of exactly what was said and what the, oh no, you go first, you go first. It's all up to the mind of the reader, but still eventually they are asking one question, then another person asking another question. Maybe not one, then one, then one, then one. It may be one person asks 2 or 3 questions, gets some answers, then someone else chimes in, but they found a rhythm. I don't need to go into the specifics. I get to be vague, which is why I put it that way. But let's keep it light on this guy's end. So let's have a quick look. How long has this taken now? Do I not get a timer thing? I don't get a timer thing. God damn it. I have no idea how long I've been doing this. There we go. Beep. Beep, beep, beep. So, that's the question, is about talking over each other. And so what did they want? Jemska wants to know where Dargentad is, and Laureus wants to know how to get to the lands of the dead. They both have opposing ideas of what to do. We can then have Knives, the mystic, sort of chime in and support the idea of hunting down Dargentad after they've managed to ask all the questions and got all the information. That would also help establish Knives' character as the one that wants to be decisive and chime in with their ideas about things. But a lot of Knives' character hasn't necessarily been established. But so far, what I've got from backstory and current interactions is that they are the ones to sort of chime in and get things done once they see an opening, and not take the first move necessarily. They are the coup de grace, precise strike people. So, shush, notifications. Eventually managing to find a rhythm that allows them to ask their questions without talking over each other. Scale begins. More about Dargentad. Where he was, where he's going, and what information Yoren might be able to share in the spirit of vengeance. Horus, however, probes the grieving man about his knowledge of this water bridge between worlds. How else might one reach the land dead? How did he hope to survive the journey? So now we can have him talk and respond to all of these questions. But they've been asked in a clump as far as the reader's concerned, and so we can answer them in an abstract clump. Yoren scrunches up his face in thought and flits his eyes from Elven Wizard to Wizard Dragon as the questions fly. Don't be. I just commented on a post that I've made. It's this one. Like, dude, I'm writing the update now. Could you not? Jesus. Oh, right. Okay, that's fine. If anyone does want to update, you can still update. I'm still here. I'm just, oh, jeez. Well, I've not done your bit yet, so it's fine. So no one from the north do anything. Apart from Alexander, if you want to chime in with your thing, that's fine. Yoran scrunches up his face in thought and flips his eyes from elven wizard to dragon as the questions fly quickly at him. Clears his throat and begins to slowly parse out his responses. Being given a drink by let's have them be helpful. Why not? He looks as though he feels a bit better and more easily converses with the party. He reveals that his village is only a few days west of the lake. So that will pull them in the opposite direction of where they were naturally going. Zachary's apparently commented on my post. What are you doing, Zach? You're killing me. You're killing me, Zach. This begins dragging the bound goblin out. A little help, please. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'm pretending that I'm upset. I'm not really upset. I'm genuinely not upset. I'm fine, you guys. But no, it's fine. Okay, so I keep moving my mouse to hover over things so they don't come up as notifications in the top right-hand corner. I hate having to go through those. Horror story dealt with, jump scale, investigate the rumors, lawyers as well as the dead, and knives at the end. Okay, so and that what was Darkentad's thing again? He said it was clearing the way for someone without having to be a fair maiden in the village and was taken as a prize. She did not survive the night. Body lay bare and blooded on the cold mountainside, found by the goat herd and his boy. I seek to bring her back from the lands that Darkentad sent her to. I seek the lands of the dead. Okay. And it's only a few days west of the lake, and then Darkentad reigned over them for 2 days. He was really toying with the villages. Most have been maimed. They never work or walk again. The village is at risk of dying out. Wishes to save his daughter, Ariadne, and travel south to join his distant kin. Okay, so if they do try to save the daughter at some point, they can travel south with them. That's fine. If they really push this, I can find some way to make the Lands of the Dead a little closer, although I don't want them to go there just yet. Yoran wishes to save his daughter, Ariadne, and travel south to join his distant kin. Yoran reveals also that he has no guarantees of his potential success in his endeavors. merely the rumor the lake take him to his daughter. His plan was to find her or drown in the putrid waters. Either way, his suffering would end. Yeah, this is quite a dark tale. So extreme north and extreme south are dealing with the darker sides of the universe. So you've got like demons and hauntings to the south, and you've got this rather existential thing going on in the north. Either way, suffering would end. He does not know where Dargentad was heading, but he knows he traveled southeast. Consulting his notes from his travels up here, that would place Dargentad in their potential path should the party continue to the Orc City lies. East. So, using NPCs to help clarify potential player actions. Right, so now we need Knives to chime in, and then Hexfangs either way give us 15 minutes. Still makes sense and still sort of adheres to the original intention behind the words and is still relevant at this point. So let's go. Where's Knives? Knives, 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 Knives. Knives, where are you? Knives, where are you? What? Ah, no, impotent recursion. Ah! Where is it? There it is. So I was alt-tabbing before. I lost track of where I was. Boom. Having turned his focus inwards in meditation during the questioning that during the questioning of Yoren. As having turned his focus inwards in meditation during the questioning of Yoren, flashes his eyes open and says aloud, "She is truly gone to the dead. Do we have the right to retrieve her?" His words are careful but deliberate, and a word that means basically he's not going to take them back. He knows that they sting, but he does. He's not being careless. He's just being blunt. His words are careful but deliberate and unrepentant. Unrepentant or unrepentant? Unrepentant. Here we go. Showing no regret for one's wrongdoings. things. It works. It's fine. There can be a casual understanding of the word repentant, and it'll work. His words are careful but deliberate and unrepentant. Is belligerent a better word? Of course, it's belligerent. Hostile and aggressive. No, they're not. It's not a better word. What's going on here? Okay. Her god may have claimed her, and she may be happy. That's a statement, not a question. The only thing we could really offer is to help this poor soul. Right, so turns now to his compatriots. The only thing we could really offer is to help this poor soul in seeking rightful vengeance on the evil that was responsible, rather than let him throw his knife away. A slight flicker of what can be seen as he's flexing paw. Hexwang briefly considers her options before addressing, I don't want to say turning every time, before addressing Yoren. Before deciding to whether more direct evidence, some more direct information. This is a bad way of putting it, and I'm going to be regretful of what I've written here. Either way, give us 15 minutes. She sticks out her hand to Yoren. Second time's the charm. Yoren's eyes widen in shock and looks over to the pool. Clambers to his feet and takes the scaly hand of Hexfang as they approach the edge of the pool. Coughing and gagging slightly, he covers his mouth and turns to Hexfang. You can survive this, surely. You can retrieve my daughter. I would be eternally grateful and be in your debt. But if you can find her, my life would be lost in this pool. Perhaps it would be best to dive in alone. becomes clear and time away from and discussing vengeance has softened his suicidal tendency. Okay, so now we need to decide if Hexfang is going to dive into the pool without him, or if she might consider it's a trick of some kind, because she might do, so I'm not going to go ahead and say that she dives in. But I will be ready to respond quickly if she does, because I don't want to leave them hanging with not a lot to do. But there's an important thing there. So let's see, XP. So I'm basically giving 5 XP for being in a scene that has progressed but not posting. 10 XP if you post, and if you basically just toddle along and do a normal thing, like try to investigate a little something or something along those lines. Just posting at all and doing something that seems in character. I'm giving extra XP if your character learns something, gets closer to a prescribed goal, or if something happens that hasn't happened to your character. So this can be in combat. If you try grappling and you've never grappled before, you get more experience. So you don't get more experience for doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. You get more experience for experiencing new things. So if you've never used one of your class features before, you get to get bonus XP. With skills, it's harder for me to track. I'm not tracking whether or not people are using skills or whatnot. But if they've used a skill that feels to me like a new one or reveals extra information to them, they get bonus XP. I think I've gone up to 25 XP using the system before with like supreme information overload for them growing as people. But that's to me what the XP is doing in this play by post, because it's fairly narrative driven. In an in-person game, I tend not to do XP because the parties are smaller. I can do story rewards instead. And that's generally what I do. And that's what I started this campaign doing. But I've now switched to an XP system because people are dropping in and out. And that's fine. But it's harder to keep track of story rewards in that case. So everyone's contributed. Everyone's done a little something. Hexfang has commanded someone, which she normally does. Or not commanded someone, but basically taking control of the situation. She normally does this. But it is with a grieving person. It's not something that's happened before, so bump that up to 15. Gemscale is learning more about Dargentards. That's fine. Loris is learning more about the Lands of the Dead. Even if that's just disappointment that there isn't more to go on, that's an avenue shut off, and that's an experience learned. That an avenue has now been shut off for exploration. Because I'm seeing the information here as being quite disappointing, that this person doesn't know if this is a pool to the Land of the Dead, which further informs Lorius that this information is not ubiquitous in the north. Hilm just has his own story that is reflecting upon. So I don't know if there's any new information for Hilm there. So no extra XP. Knives, however, yes, there's some nice role play there. And he does make a suggestion, but I'd say it's no greater than what Gemscale and Lorius were doing before. Gemscale and Lorius getting the 15 because they've learned more things about the things that they were asking, whereas Knives is simply doing what Hilm did and making a statement, or what Gemscale and Lorius were doing before with like, well, this is my point. He's kind of jumping on that bandwagon there. So until something more personal happens to Knives, I'm afraid just 10 XP. This isn't supposed to be punishing the player of Knives, however, because Knives is essentially driving this scene in some sense, because Gemscale and Lorius have opposing views. Hexfang has a completely different viewpoint from those two views. They've got two different aims. It's not opposing views necessarily, but just different views on things. Hilm is one of non-interference, and Knives is picking a side, going with Gemscale and saying, right, we should pursue the dragon and not the Lands of the Dead. We shouldn't be trying to resolve this man's grief. We should be trying to shift the grief into anger. but he hasn't learned anything for him. So I'm sticking with the 10 XP for knives, and that is that section done. Now, what I normally do is go on to the other sections and then quickly proofread all of them to make sure they're all consistent. So I'm just going to proofread this one, and then it will be completely complete. Completely. Hiln becomes a little uneasy when the dead are mentioned, and Lorius looks mortified. It's best to leave the dead resting, Hiln intones, nervously looking over to the lake before adding, it's a very sad story, but bringing people back from the dead never had a good ending. He seems to remember an old story and shivers a bit. Hexfang hands the eggs to Gemscale, who accepts them and nods. She points to herself. Poison dragon. Then to the lake. Poison lake. If anyone stands a chance of reaching the bottom of this, both figuratively and literally, it's going to be me. It's either a barren cesspool or a portal to the grave. Gemscale and Lorius both begin speaking at the same time, eventually managing to find a rhythm that allows them to ask their questions without talking over each other. Gemscale begins asking more about Dargentad, where he was, where he's going, and what information Yoren might be able to share in the spirit of vengeance. Lorius, however, probes the grieving man about his knowledge of this water bridge between worlds. How else might one reach the land of the dead? How did he hope to survive the journey? Yoren scrunches up his face in thought, flits his eyes from elven wizard to dragon as the questions fly quickly at him. He clears his throat and begins to slowly parse out his responses. Being given a drink by R, he looks as though he feels a bit better and more easily converses with the party. He reveals that his village is only a few days west of the lake, and that Dargentad reigned over them for 2 days. He was clearly toying with the villagers, and most have been maimed and may never work or walk again. The village is at risk of dying out. Yoren wishes to save his daughter, Ariadne, and travel south to join his distant kin. Yoren reveals also that he has no guarantees of his potential success in his endeavors, merely the rumor that the lake might take him to his daughter. His plan was to find her or drown in the putrid waters. Either way, his suffering would end. He does not know where Dargentad was heading, but he knows he traveled southeast. Consulting his notes from his travels up here, confirms that would place Dargentad in their potential path, should the party continue to the Orc City that lies to the east. Knives, having turned his focus inwards in meditation during the questioning of Yoren, flashes his eyes open and says aloud, if she is truly gone to the dead, do we have the right to retrieve her? His words are careful, but deliberate and unrepentant. Her god may have claimed her, and she may be happy. He now turns to his compatriots. The only thing we could really offer is to help this poor soul in seeking rightful vengeance on the evil that was responsible, rather than let him throw his life away. A slight flicker of claw can be seen in the tabaxi's flexing paw. Hexfang briefly considers her options, before deciding to gather some more direct information. Either way, give us 15 minutes. She sticks her hand out to Yoren. Second time's the charm. Yoren's eyes widen in shock and looks over to the pool. Then clambers to his feet and takes the scaly hand of Hexfang as they approach the edge of the pool. Coughing and gagging slightly, he covers his mouth and turns to Hexfang. If you can survive this, surely, then if you can find and retrieve my daughter, I would be eternally grateful and be in your debt. But if you can find her, and my life will be lost in this pool, then perhaps it would be best for you to dive in alone. His nervousness becomes clear, and the time away from the pool and discussing vengeance has softened his suicidal tendency. What do you do? I think that works as an entry. It encapsulates what's happened. It's a little nudge towards what's going to happen further. And basically, what I'm looking for is clear direction on what the party's doing. The party is basically needing to discuss things more, and there hasn't been a great deal of that. The players are pretty much sticking to their own sections and not discussing between each other, which is fine. It would just make things a bit smoother, happen a lot faster, if that was not the case. So part 4. Paste that in there. I've done the experience and everything. That's fine. And create. So that is now that. And so that is one part of the update. This has taken more than an hour for me to do just that one update, but I have been slowing down because of this. In fact, nope, Alexander's not posted at all. So going green is still as is, and he gets no experience points because the scene hasn't progressed at all, because he's the only one there, which I can understand might be a little off-putting in a game with so many players and he's on his own. So I might need to have a word with Alexander and see if he wants to progress things so that I basically move him to where other players are, because that might be off-putting. On the road at last, part 10. So this is one that is basically a fight has erupted. And so I put roll for initiative, then what do you do? Whenever I can remember to do so, I put how to achieve an end that I've asked for. Let's take out these so that I know that I've not already done the experience points. I don't think I did that in the north. But, more people here, and I'm likely to get very confused. And Kane also not updated, but the scene's progressing, so Kane says there. We've got the haunted fishing village as well, which is progressing slightly. So let's do that. Haunting fishing village I'm enjoying immensely. In fact, I don't think there's a section that I'm not enjoying at all. All of these are really, really cool, but I'm enjoying them for wildly different reasons, and that is what prompted me to say that. So like the haunted fishing village, I'm enjoying kind of playing up the creep factor at times. I'm now trying to get them to come to appreciate some of the locals, so that the creep factor can be dialed up again in a little bit. So I'm dialing down the creep factor in the south, in the haunted fishing village. So they've come there, and they're supposed to try and find out what's going on with these tales of a haunting. And essentially what's happening is two things. And the puzzle is to tease out what belongs where and where did they direct their energies. The reason this entire thing came about was, in fact, the Druids. So Adric, the now barbarian, but still works for the Druids. Theodore, a paladin that works for the Druid Order. And Lorwyn, the dragonborn Druid. So the only true Druid in the Druid group. They were all given a task to resolve this haunted thing. That they were told that a woman has recently lost her husband, and she has latent magical powers. Her mourning for him has activated her sorceress blood, and she is keeping him in the village. He is not able to naturally progress on. The Druids, being all about the natural process, have said, basically, go and find a way to move that ghost on. The Druids, actually, like the Druid Order, not the Druid Party, would like to see the woman killed. That would be the quickest, simplest way to resolve the matter. Have her killed, her magic eventually wears off, the ghost moves on. And that's all they care about, is quickly resolving the issue. But they're not like Gorbane. They will not punish them for taking their time. A task given to a druid can complete in whatever way they see fit. So long as the order achieves their goals, they don't care how long it takes. They understand that nature moves in like a cyclical, sometimes ponderous gait, And so if they want to do something, they'll do it eventually, because they understand that it will eventually all work its way out. Anyway, so that's what they're down to do. As they were on their way, they did get a little sidetracked. I was anticipating them being there already, but the sidetrack is this big fight that's going on. Darren got captured by goblins, which I was not anticipating at all. But it got me to introduce a small goblin enclave, which I was going to introduce anyway. It's a little further north than I wanted it, but it's there. And so what I've essentially done is I've created a separate, larger goblin enclave that's still south. So that's still where it needs to be, because there's other things with goblins going on further south. But where the big party is up here with like Nyx and Darren and Adric and all that kind of stuff, and the druids that were supposed to peel off and do their own thing, they are dealing with like a small group of these goblins that have ventured into another cave system that floods periodically. Darren was tied up in a flooded cave, but it's already inhabited by lizard men. So they are currently fighting lizard men and goblins and bugbears and things. And there should be some hobgoblins later on, because it's a military force being led by hobgoblins. And so there's magic down there as well, but they don't know that yet. But it's basically a dungeon that I want them to return to at a later point. I want them to escape from here and move on to close off the other bits that they've got going on. So these people need to escape from here and come back later, basically. Haunted fishing village. So they've arrived there and they've found some small imps, which ties into Oriana's storyline. It also ties into Fallow's storyline. So Fallow and Oriana are basically mirror. Lortian? Yes, Lortian and Oriana, my apologies, are mirror opposites of each other. So Lortian lost his family to the demon Begazul. And his family's heirloom, a magical blade that could slay demons and devils, destroyed by Begazul. Oriana's backstory is she actually listened to the people that were warning the village about Begazul's impending attack. She rallied the troops. She managed to fend off the demon horde, small as it was, against the village, because they were just a distraction. And Begazul snuck around, got into the family crypt, was about to destroy this family heirloom when her mum and dad and her all went down to the crypt, fought Begazul. They were badly wounded, but they managed to fight him off. And she defended it. So she is a folk hero. That is her background. Whereas Lortian is a haunted one. It's the same backstory, just with different outcomes. So Oriana's magic item has been sent elsewhere, hidden from her and hidden from Begazul. So that's still out there and can potentially take Begazul down. So Lortian is just a day's walk away from Oriana. They're a day's walk away from each other, and they will eventually meet. And it will be interesting to see that meeting. I'm really looking forward to that. But the Haunted Fishing Village, so they found some imps to show that Begazul is interested in this village, which means that there's an anti-Begazul item in this village. That's the assumption that should be drawn by by Oriana. Maybe with a bit more investigating, they find out something. But what's actually happened is that there's some small sorceress things happening because of Moira. She lost her husband. Her sorceress powers have kicked in. She's keeping her husband's ghost there and summoning just other lights and sounds and things. The demons then came along, attracted by a medallion that was sold to I've forgotten his name now. Some drunk guy in the town basically went to Sommergleam to try and resolve this issue with the sights and sounds and things, and it's getting a bit spoopy. So he went, got this medallion, brought it back. The medallion is supposed to fend off demons and things, but of course it's attracting the demons because they want to destroy it, because they eventually want to try and take over the world, and they don't want all these anti-demon weapons available. So they start arriving and messing about with things. And souring some food and stuff. So it all seems like it's all an escalating problem, and it sort of is, but it's not all coming from Moira. Moira's doing some of it, the really benign stuff, but all the other ghosts and spirits, they're being summoned and consumed by these demons, so that they've got an army of like specters and poltergeists and things to use against this town, while they try and grab this medallion and take it away and destroy it. So that's what they're trying to do. So when the imps first arrived, they thought, oh, great, we can turn you guys into like flesh golems. It'll be ace. They get sadly defeated. Begazul telekinetically destroys the imp when he starts giving away information. But what I also had was the imps have more power than standard imps, because they've got magic items fused into their spines, partly so that the party can't just remove the magic item and go, oh, cool, I've got a cool magic item. It's a disgusting thing. They could still, if they wanted to, pick up the imp. They've got the magic item there and find some way to interact with the magic item, which I would allow to have happen. But it's, disgusting and weird. So I'm basically trying to introduce magic items that aren't necessarily ones that you want to go and get. Also, it's imp-sized as well, but still usable. But anyway, so that's the task. They're currently in a cabin with Moira, trying to work out what's actually going on. And what's just happened is anything relevant? Nope. Here we go. I meant to die my wife. Ari acting on a hunch, cast fairy fire on the other presence she can feel. Faint green aura wafts around the various objects. Yeah, she was accused of being a witch, which of course Moira is the witch in this case. She's a sorceress. But Ermione was like, no, like there's a ghost right there. You've been talking to him without trying to tip off to us that you've been talking to him. Like, dude, because Moira is very shy and protective about the fact that her husband's ghost is being seen by her. She doesn't quite believe that the husband's ghost is really there. She thinks she's losing her mind. Her house has gone into deep disrepair. For a whole year since her husband died, she has just been more and more reclusive. Weird things have been happening because of her sorcerer's powers. So she's been withdrawing more and more and doesn't really believe her senses. So she's throwing around accusations because she genuinely believes that it's not her. She doesn't think that it's her doing these things, which isn't clear yet. Which thankfully Eremione is not pointing the finger and going, "No, you are." Yeah, she's doing well with it. The stream has gone on far longer than I anticipated, and my son might be back soon from his day at nursery. So I think I've concluded that this is taking far longer for me than I anticipate that it does. I'm going to carry on with it anyway. Let's go back to this. But yeah, that's basically my process. I read what's there, I rearrange bits to see what suits better, and I progress the story on a little bit as far as we can with it. There have been times where we've been stuck in a room mulling over the same bit of what's going on for sessions and sessions, and then we'll skip ahead a bunch of time because we're all traveling somewhere, and the traveling's fairly dry and standard. But I will be sure to go in and describe things that they see along their travels. And there are other times where they're not necessarily traveling a large stretch, but just they're doing something that takes a long time, but they can't do a lot else, so we just skip to after that event. So I always try to make sure that in every update it's moving along, the story's progressing. Also, with the different sections and stuff, they're all on slightly different time zones. So, Death Lake and Going Green, those two sections are happening in the far north, and they are months and months and months behind. So they are happening first. And so tales of the exploits are traveling and trickling south. So that when the northern people eventually decide to travel south, they eventually decide to join the rest of everyone else. They will simply be, there. And we don't need to faff about with time. Which is always a good thing, to not have to faff about with time. So I'm faffing with time now, so I don't have to later. There's no like having to sync up and stuff. It's just a vague months, maybe half a year or a year in the past. And then when they eventually decide to travel south, they can just hook up like that. But yeah, when it comes to the southern people, we've got Sommergleam Stop Off with Cosima, Fallow, and Lotion happening at the same time as the On the Road at Last people. Basically, a magical message was sent off saying, get your bum to this place to come and help out. And so Cosima was part of the group that comes along to help out. Yeah, that's... Yeah, I'll let you guys go. I'm gonna stop now. But yeah, thanks for watching. That's my process. That's what I do. Yeah, I have no idea how to end these things. See you later, and I'll carry on with this update. Bye.